So I'm going to interchange it. There'll be one of mine, a sent-in question, and then I'll also open it up for you guys to ask the third question. And we'll just keep going round and round like that until we've exhausted the list. So if you guys think of anything as the conversation is going on, keep it in your head, because very soon you will have the opportunity to ask it. So that's it. All right, we're going to start this. Come on.
All right, awesome.
Ben,
all right,
first
guys,
and
thank you.
foremost, anything to say?
Yes, I've had butterflies all day about this. Look, I write, and y'all take me serious. A few other people take me serious. It's awesome. It's building. It's really great. I have been really struggling to take myself serious, and I'm a writer. I'm a creator. We deal with, imposters. That feeling of being an imposter syndrome. So I go through that. But having you guys here coming out, I have my friend from the Army who came here. We actually saw each other not too long ago, but we've been friends for years, since our first deployment together. We went through battle together. So I have guys like him here, friends from childhood, new friends, who do what we love for this town. That's why I have him here as well, because we do this for this town. I went away for a long time, and I forgot how much this place meant to me. My dad raised me with a lot of care about this town, and it's really impossible for me to go anywhere here without thinking of him. I remember my going to Barnes and Nobles, going to everything in this town that I got to experience. I remember a lot because of him. So thank you so much, Dad. I know it was your birthday recently, so thank you. Happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you for everything. I really do without you. So he made me
21 again.
41. Yeah. He's my storyteller. He made this possible, so thank you. And thank you guys, because y'all are the ears that I'm telling this to. I would just do this to myself. I would write it to myself like a lunatic otherwise. That's it. Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, well, speaking of lunatics, let's start with the first question that I got for you. I was really wondering, because as I'm going through this book and doing a little bit of research for this, every story has a dark conclusion. I mean, none of them come out happy. This is not joyful. So I'm wondering, spoiler alert, sorry if you didn't know. But did that take you, mentally into a place that was a little bit dark?
Yeah, I actually think I wanted to get on that when we talked last time, because it's I've been writing so much dark stuff. Not only this, but the Hound of Endtown, some of y'all have read as well, is really super depressing. And then it gets more depressing in Hello Defiant. And they're all kind of part of the same universe. So I guess if you live in this world, it's horrible, because it's always so dismal. It did affect me. It's really affected me. Personal things in my life were affecting me. And then writing is usually your escape, and it's a great escape. But writing this it's been since 2013 of being trapped in a dismal place in my imagination, and I was the kid who dreamed up dinosaurs and monsters and crazy space battles, and now I'm like serious grown-up stuff and post-war experiences and putting these in stories. So it's like, it's been kind of hard. I didn't realize it until like this year that I was like, man, maybe I should write some happy stuff for once, because I'm like, this is like, if you lived your life like Game of Thrones every day, you'd be depressed. So I think that's why he takes forever writing those books, because he doesn't want to be in it constantly. But yeah, the next book is actually named after a friend who's here, Amanda and Lewis, and they are, it's a time traveling dinosaur. So it's a lot lighter, it's way funner, and hopefully we'll see if my theory's true, if that idea is true, if it's affecting me. So
I imagine it is, but I'm wondering, you're talking about how much you dislike the place, but my guess is that there's still a part of you that's going to go back there. Is that true?
Yeah, I have 2 more books actually that will bookend, because I'm actually currently writing The Hermit, which is the 3rd book ending Scout's trilogy. So, and it's a really, really heavy book philosophically, like telling us like how humans are in the world, our behavior with outcasts and stuff like that, and otherisms. So we have that going on in that. So it's a really, really heavy book. The chapter I'm writing now has like 3 suicides in it.
Whoa,
so it's,
in one chapter?
Yeah, in one chapter. And they're pivotal to the story, and it's this idea of what happens when you lose like spirituality. So there's all this, it's deep themes, it's really heavy on me. I love it though. I like that. Like that's the important stuff. Friends who hang out with me, I get in that melancholy mood of talking about like those sad, stupid things. I don't know why, but I do. I'm really interested in that, and so they're all gonna be bookended. And I like horror. Horror is awesome to write, so I'm gonna bookend it. The last 2 stories will be The Hermit, and then followed by one called Lemuria and Endling. And Lemuria will be in the far past, like prehistoric humans dealing with the monsters that you read in this mythology, and then it leads into the future, parallel with what happens in the Hound of Endtown. So everything that's happening in the Hound in Endtown, the story will be parallel with that, with the group Essie, which I have my tattoo right here, Essie tattoo. So all of that's going to be parallel together, and it'll end what happened and like bring the story to a big conclusion.
All right, well now let's take one of the audience questions, or one of the fan questions from Deborah Fiddler.
Yes.
Who's your favorite author?
Oh man, I'll just say Stephen King. It's always Stephen King's my go-to pew pew guy. Like I love Stephen King the most just because I relate to him on a level. I very ever since post college, post graduating, I've been thinking about like where we are literarily, in our history, what our movement is right now, because we're kind of like into magical realism where people are writing like Harry Potter, perfect example. You have a real world setting, which Harry Potter is actually in the 90s. So it's like set in the real world, but with magic, right? And there's a lot of stories we have that have magical realism now. So that's kind of our thing. Mine kind of does that, but I'm curious as like where we're going now. Like where's my writing going to be? Because guys like Stephen King, especially him, because he's alive right now. He's a big writer. I get to see him get all these laurels and recognition, and so he's a big guy for me. And he's kind of like, if I lived in the time of like Ernest Hemingway or other classical writers, if I got to be alive at that time period and see them as like my age, like, oh wow, these guys are doing this, But I get to see it with Stephen King, so I think that's just why I like him so much, and he's ridiculous like I am. So
great choice, man. All right, listen, now I'm going to open it up to you guys. If anybody here has a question, we'll have time for one, and then we'll do it again. Anybody got something? If not, believe me, I've done it.
I know, everyone gets super shy with the question.
I got a really loaded question. Personally, I've always wanted to write a book. I can barely write third grade level. So. How do you do it though? Just, is it really hard to get published and stuff?
I'm published traditionally in articles and journals, and I'm published on my own. So I do this on my own. I control every facet just because I like controlling the creative part of it. When I was a kid, I made like a Magic the Gathering card game, and I made the cards myself. I stayed up for like hours at night. I ignored schoolwork. My teacher will tell you I ignored schoolwork to make my own thing.
And I let him because he was so good.
Yeah, God forbid I'd let anyone step in and be like, I want to do this. I want this font. I want this, because I'm like, no, this is I know from the cover to the content to everything what I want. The only one who gets to say anything is an editor. Like, that's it. But otherwise, it's like, I want to make it myself. So I get all that power. I get to charge whatever I want. I get to give out as many free ones as I want. I'm not burdened by a contract. So that's great. And I like doing traditional through journals and stuff because it gives you, like, especially for me who's trying to be a professor and teach this, I get recognition in academia, so I get to say, oh, I have a poem here, oh, I have a short story here. So that's kind of cool for that, because it's not commercial I'm doing it for. It's more just for academic reasons and cultural reasons, sharing political stories, political poems to, college articles and journals and stuff like that. So.
Well, right now you actually just made me think of a question, not even just for you, but for an audience member. So you were his English teacher, or what grade? What is this?
Junior year, high school.
And what is your name, Miss?
I'm Cat Bailey Potter. I was Miss Bailey.
Miss Bailey, okay.
Now I'm Mrs. Potter, but.
I'm just curious from your perspective, because we're all here to talk about his writing. Did you know at that time that he was an exceptional writer?
Yes, I did. I know. He had presented to me this manuscript about this thick and just said, this is my game world. This is my world.
Wow.
And I read it and I went, anything I do can only be to promote him and to encourage him. I can't change him. I don't want to. His writing style was wonderful, and he just was an inspiration. It was fun to teach him because he was so creative, like constantly. Kept me in tears and laughter and awe, and he's just marvelous.
Wow, so he was an inspiration to you?
Yes.
Wow, how cool is that?
I don't even think I do that. Wow.
Big cheers for good teachers, man. That was great.
Yes. Which I'm a teacher now. Thank you. And I was really bad at school. I had no focus whatsoever. So thank you to good teachers like you who were patient with a big dummy like me who took a little longer. Well, I was just trapped in another world. And that's the problem. I lived there and I didn't want to be in class as much, you know. So
Okay,
He
well,
would come back and visit me. Like he came back and
I
spoke
did.
to you. And I'm all,
I have a little bit of a story to tell.
Oh yeah, hey, Pop's got the story to tell. Come through.
It's at the risk of embarrassing Ben, but I'm gonna.
Can you come this way?
Yeah.
Come this way. All right, Ben's Pops is going to tell us a
It's
story.
kind of related to her teaching, I guess. I don't know exactly what grade he taught him, but there was a time when Ben was failing English. And after I knew, you know, he liked to kid around a lot in school and stuff. So I thought, well, how am I going to get to him? How can I help him to improve and, you know, not be so relaxed about, you know, the responsibility of learning in school? So it meant a lot to me. So I, you know, had a seat with Ben, talked to him, lectured him for hours, and I'm thinking he kept arguing back with me, and I'm like, son, I love you, I'm your father. I hurt you, you know, but he kept arguing. I said, I'm not your enemy. And I said, what's going on? There's just this obstacle I can't overcome. So I said, well, and I started thinking, I said, oh, I need to do it with something he loves. And he loved that game that you played, that role-playing game.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and he taught me how to play a little bit, and we played. And one of the characters he was a scout, right? A scout, ranger.
Yeah, Ranger.
Ranger. And his character, every time we played, you know, he was always real competitive, trying to win and trying to get new tools or weapons to help himself throughout his journey. And what ended up happening is I thought about that and I said, let me ask you something. If your character that you play in this game that, you know, you're so fond of, what if he had an obstacle in front of him? What would he do? You know? And he's like, oh, God, you got me, Dad. You got me. That's it.
Hey, great story. Hey, man.
I still weirdly think that way now. That's actually weirdly subconsciously in my head. Because that's why I joined the army, so I can have that like as my warrior class. I'm a minister. I do like marry people for that, you know, like a cleric. So I weirdly took on my Dungeons and Dragons habits. So, just because it's like you got to level up in life. What else are you doing, right? What else are you gonna just stay level 1 throughout your entire life? No, you gotta level up.
Man, that's so cool just to hear all this perspective, to get a fuller picture of who you are as an individual. But I do keep hearing a theme, which is that you escape to these other worlds, and now you're just putting that on paper. Why is it so important for you to have these other places that you can go to?
It's not just important that I have them, because it's great that I have them in my head and I'm part of them all the time. And it's super weird that I'm 33 and I still have them. It's really weird that I'll drive in a car and imagine dragons flying outside, and it's like, dude, you're 33. You went to war, for Christ's sake. Like, come on, man. Like, at some point, stop. But I can't stop it, and it never stops. And I don't know. It's just a weird thing that's just like I don't know. It freaks me out when people say they don't have an imagination. Because I'm like, how do you not? Like, what do you do when you just look at stuff? Like, you just look at that thing? Like, I'm thinking about everything around it. Like, look, the book, the people, I analyze. It's a curse sometimes because you analyze a slight. Somebody says something, it can be constructive, but for me, I'm like, what does that mean? How is the syntax? How is it formed? What is this? So I start breaking down what people tell me, and it's really hard because it may be innocuous, but for me, it's more. You know, you tell me something, and it's like, you're like, oh, well, this could be improved, and I'm like, oh my God, he says suck. Like, he says I suck because I did this wrong and I knew I did this and I second guessed me. And if you're second guessing yourself, what are you as a creator and then you have like a mental breakdown. Yeah, that's what writing is. It's not easy. It feels
Sounds
easy.
fun.
It feels easy, and you feel like a cheat sometimes because I'm essentially a liar. I'm a professional liar. I come in, I make up entire characters that you have to care about that literally never existed on the planet. And you go, oh my God, I don't want them to die. And I'm like, they're not even real. I'm the first to tell you, they're not even real. I made them up. He's in my head. But you care that much, you know, so.
All right, another one. After hearing your pop say that story, I'm curious, hearing how he worked to try to make you a better human being as your dad, but he tried to find the tools that would resonate with you. Do you take any of the lessons you learned from him now that you're pops?
Wow. And I said to ask anything.
I know.
Yeah, that's a really big question. So I have really gone through an existential crisis since hitting 30. Cheers. It was, yeah, it was like, oh my gosh. I went through a whole, I'm out of wine. So I went through a whole, let me get wine. So I went through this whole,
bring two,
I went through this whole crisis because it was like, I'm at the age, my kids were running around here, they're big. My oldest is 12 now. And so it's like seeing them at an age that I remember so incredibly vividly. And like I said, I still have that weird mindset at 33. So it's still there. I see where my parents were, and of course I want more, because you want more than your parents. Your parents, you know, even if I was insanely rich, I'd want more than they had. I'm just ambitious like that, and I want constantly. And I want that for my kids. Being able to do all this is great because I tell them, but it's really weird because I'm not where I want to be at all. I want more. Like I love all this, and this is the first step, and this is going to probably be the time in my life that even if I get big, this is the moment that means the most. I think you mean
when.
When, yes. When I get big, this is the moment that means these were the, like, Stephen King, he's done so many interviews, they all start to, but these beginning ones are the ones that, like, he remembers his beginning ones. He goes, I remember my first book signing, 3 of my friends showed up. I had a book signing, Connor, Lucas, and my friend James showed up. Only 3 guys showed up. Luckily, I met new people at the place, but it was like only 3 dudes showed up, and it's like, I want more. I want Stephen King status. And at being 30, seeing my kids develop and wanting that still and not having it yet, and like the doubts and everything like that, it's just constant fighting. It's like constant no, because I want it so badly, you know.
Okay, so you're there and only 3 people show up to this book signing. I don't know if it's your first or whatever. What was it, your first?
It was just an out of norm one.
Well, that's
fine, it was a different place.
But what keeps you going? What in your head is telling you, like, okay, this is not going to be the end?
Because I'm going to keep doing this no matter what. Like, I was going to write, like, after being sad at home, my first response would be to write. So, like, no one read my books, I should do this more. So, like, that's my go-to for sad stuff. So, like, no matter what, if I'm sad, like, I would just go do that anyway. So, it's like, if I'm sad about books, I guess I'm making more books. So, like, I was going to do it anyway. And it's like, well, people, and I'm like, I'm a grown-up, so people have schedules, people have things, and it was kind of a weird situation. I'm like, think of it that way, dude. Don't let it get you down. Do it again. And then you get ready for it again. And then I stopped really writing. Like, I haven't been writing The Hermit or anything because I'm getting ready for this. And I'm so busy getting ready for this that when this dies down, or when this is building up and my writing dies down, I get depressed because my natural urge is to write when I'm sad. And so I can't do it because I'm so focused on this that when this is great, when it turns out, I'm like, oh my God, it was worth the agony of like, oh my God, I'm not writing, I'm freaking out, I'm stressing out. And then you get here and you're like, awesome. So it's worth it in the end, you know.
All right, very good. I've asked a bunch of questions, and I said I was going to rotate, so let me get to a couple of these from the fans. This one comes from Tammy Heron. Do you do your own artwork for the books?
Yeah, like I said, I gotta create everything, man. Like, I've worked with artists and they can be very lazy. So, like, I mean, I get it because I'm a creator, so I'm lazy too. Like, if someone was telling me, Ben, write this book now, I'd be like, you get it when you get it, buddy. So yeah, I draw all the interior, the art inside, I draw all the monsters. They're honestly nowhere near as good as what's in my head and wish I could give you. You know, hopefully one day if they're a movie, some dude's throwing you some dope graphics or whatever's on there, but in the meantime, you gotta settle for this art and my descriptions, because that's all I can give you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, the Lechusa one is in there. The one based on you is this creepy story she told us is in there somewhere.
You guys gotta see these.
Yeah, there's a lot of different weird monsters.
Okay, here's Lechusa.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Look at that. That is a monster if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
All right, a follow-up to this. How did you decide, because you have a bunch of stories in here, and I noticed that you picked only certain ones to do the artwork for. How did you decide what got the artwork and what didn't?
The ones that actually had, like, monsters that I could draw that were...
Oh, okay.
There was almost one more. Yeah. There was actually, like, some of them are too hard to draw. The alien was kind of... I thought it was going to be hard. It was actually easy, but it was weird, because it's not a person. It was like a weird triangle monster thing. But drawing these, like... drawing these things, I was like basically going through the book of like what's an actual monster that's in the book that I can actually do, because some of them are like it's a murderer, so when I'm gonna draw a guy like he's like a guy with a knife. You're like, oh my God, man, that was a scary depiction of a creepy old lady, because I have a creepy old lady, and I almost drew that one, and I looked at it, I was like, it just looks like an old lady, so I didn't put it in there. So I have like an old lady drawing somewhere in one of my journals for it.
That's good for the fridge.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This one comes from J. Andres Garcia. Do you feel like one of the short stories in The Forest Around the Hill has a potential to become a novel in the future?
ooh, man. And I read that and I didn't even think of I couldn't think of one either. I was like, I think because all of them are like good at, I have those 2 books. So like pieces of all of them will be in those 2 books. You're going to see a lot of returns of monsters that you saw on the other one. Like Talipo is going to be in these newer books. You'll see that stuff. But like, I don't know which one. Man, probably Talipo. Actually, if I could write a whole thing on Talipo from my American Monsters, that would be really fun just because I'd like to do a story with hunter friends, like friends that are hunters out in the woods and facing off this creepy thing that they're trying to eat it and it's trying to eat them, kind of hunter chase predator thing. That'd be pretty dope. I think I could do that, but it'd be horror survival kind of story. So. Well,
the next question kind of follows into that one. This one's from Amanda Castillo. If one of your books was to be made into a movie, which one would you choose?
Oh, one of my books. Any book? Man, The Hound of Endtown, easily. Oh, if I have ones that aren't planned yet, those 2 new books for these, the Lemuria and Endling, I think visually I would love to see. I would love to see, because you never see it, cavemen. I would like to see a story with cavemen and monsters in prehistoric times doing all that, because you don't really see that a lot. We have cowboys and things, space and comic books. I'd like to see that with monsters. You don't get adventure horror stories a lot, and I like that. And a good post-apocalyptic. But obviously, The Hound of Endtown, hands down. If I could get The Hound of Endtown made as a movie, oh my gosh, that would be amazing, because that's my baby, that's my heart right there.
Well, if we focused in and we just picked one of the short stories in here to become a movie, which one would you say?
In this one, let's see, what do we got? So
I didn't know if you guys had had an opportunity to see what the book is comprised of, but it's a bunch of these short stories that are just terrifying. I mean, and some of them are pretty cool. There's one that's my favorite in there. I will tell you. Should I tell you now?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to know.
Okay. Well, my favorite one in there, he has a story called Love.
Yes.
And it's about a guy named Ray. My name's Roy. So I saw this. And the guy, he figures out that there's a ghost. Oh, can I? Wait a minute.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't want to fuck
There's
it.
19 guys. You can read more.
So Ray figures out that there's a ghost inside the house, and the ghosts will have good times with him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
you know
yeah. Grown up.
That grown up stuff.
Interactions.
But he has to give her a little bit of blood. And then the story has a really nice little ending. So I'll let you guys read that part. But he can get more and more the more blood he puts into that cup.
Yes. Yeah. It's I don't know how to describe. I have read that. It was like a kind of based on something. Polong. That's it. There's a monster called the Polong, and the more blood you give it, apparently, the more it can do harm to other people. So I kind of did that, but with the succubus story. So obviously, if it's a succubus, you know what kind of themes are going on in this story. It's called love, so you know.
It's a good story.
It's not called banality. It's called love, so we know what's going on in there.
Okay, hey, so let's go back to the crowd. Does anybody here have a story that they'd like to share or a question that they'd like to ask Ben?
I'd like to ask you.
We have one right here, and then we'll get Natasha.
I just wanted to know, how did you come up with the title of your book?
Oh, great. That's an awesome question. Yeah, because I thought really hard about it. And the first one was American Monsters, and the theme was America. And I like the idea that America was just inhabited by so little people long ago, just Native American tribes here. And then even before they came, there were no one here. So it was like a very interesting concept that there's a massive chunk of land in the world that was unoccupied. So I went with that idea, going back to Puritan times, because they came here and saw the same thing, even though there were people here. They thought like, oh my God, this is new land. We've never seen this. What is this place, right? And I liked that idea, and I was so fascinated. There's the speech on the hill that's given by, oh my gosh, I can't remember it. I would fail a class right now if I was in college. One of the early Puritan writers, he came over and he was giving a speech called the speech on the city on the hill. Yeah. Do you remember that? Yeah. And he gives this speech basically of like, we are, as the Puritans, supposed to come to the New World and set an example to the Europeans of how to be the proper Christian, right? And so he said that, and the city is on the hill, and around them was the forest. And in like Hawthorne and other writers, Puritan writers, the forest is symbolic of the devil. It's symbolic of the unknown, the temptation of things. So you're surrounded by this evil entity, the forest, with the city on the hill, which is human civilization. It's us trying to keep out the demons at bay that are surrounding. So we're on this hill, and it's the forest around us. So there you go, forest around the hill.
Yeah, I know.
I really do put work in my titles, man. I really do.
That was thought. Yeah, great question.
And I learned that in school.
Miss Bailey strikes again.
That's how
Natasha?
Okay, so I guess just being a parent myself and having an oldest son about the same age as yours,
Mhm.
do you let him read it, or if not, then at what point would you let him?
That's really hard because I have parents give kids my books constantly, and I don't know why. Because it says it's like for like older. I think it's okay for high school kids and maybe middle school. I say middle school because I read Stephen King a lot in middle school, and I was fine with it. And I think adults think we're not okay at that age, but we are really, because we're learning the most at that middle school. And I have my middle schooler already, so he's at an age where it's like you think he's dumb, he's not. He's hearing it from friends. And I would rather him read it than hear it from friends. I'd rather him give it, digest it in a good way that's appropriate than him read it and stuff. So I'm more comfortable that he would, like, if I knew he was reading Stephen King, talk about some adult stuff than his stupid friends. Because Stephen King's a grown up, he knows what he's talking about, versus these children who are like, I heard, So I think as a parent, it's read it first. That's what I tell parents. Read it first. Read it first. If you're okay with it, if it's material, because we all raise differently. Some of us are more conservative with our kids. We don't cuss around them. I cuss around my kids all the time. I don't cuss around my students. But, so we all have different behaviors in different settings. So you know your kid best. That's the best advice anyone should give as a parent to another parent. You know your kid best. Read the story like you would with a TV show. Watch it. If you're cool with it, if you're like, yeah, this is fine. The sex is limited. The violence is limited. It's okay. Boom. I would say though, however, not like a little kid. I don't even think they could read it. Because they're like, it's got big words. So, yeah.
All right, great question. Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah.
So let's get back to these fan questions. Kathleen Bailey asked, what inspires you?
Oh, what inspires me? That's really hard. That is a really hard question. I don't say, people like my teacher inspire me to be good, a good person. I'm inspired by other people to be good people. I'm not inspired to do this, I don't think, by really anyone. I think I do this because I just love it, so I do it myself. I get inspired on my behaviors. So I constantly try to strive to be what I see in other people. There's dudes like my friend from the Army over here, Garcia, who he was in the Army, smart dude, expert. He learned his job, he knew what he was doing. Even now, he's going to school, he's someone that I'm like, that's a dude I want to be like. What you do, how charismatic you are, you have those qualities. I'm like, I wish I had that. So that inspires me to try to emulate that. Miss Bailey with her infinite patience with me, and kids who are rambunctious, I try to have that as well. So I try to emulate everything from different people because, like I said, I'm a storyteller, so I collect all parts of you. All of y'all are in ways going to live on in me. And so it's like I try to emulate the things that are great about everyone. That's what inspires me, is cool things about people. I'm like, that dude's creative. Because the dude can be creative, but really is like, what if he's a jerk or can't pay his bills? I'm not going to be like, you inspire me, my man. You can't pay your bills all the time. I'm inspired by facets of people. Facets. Not the entire human being, but like the cool, amazing qualities that go really awesomely overlooked. Because we just live our life and we kind of forget that. Like Miss Bailey was there trucking every day, teaching a guy like me who refused to listen, or my dad doing that as well. So yeah, those people inspire me.
Good answer. All right, so you're going to all these different places. In this book, you create so many different kinds of worlds, man. I mean, it's a different place each time that you open up a new one of these stories. How did you flesh out each one of those? Do you see them overlapping, like going into each other, like a Marvel Cinematic Universe, or are they all independent entities?
The Hound of Endtown started all of this, really, so that one was an independent entity. But before the Hound of Endtown, some know, my friend David I think knows, Connor knows, I had a story called A Death Solar. I have been writing that since I was like 12, and that was technically my first book. I wrote it as an ebook, it came out, it was just to experiment into publishing, so that's actually out there. But I wrote that, and it was a huge universe, and it was just like every time I made something up as a kid, it got sucked into that big Marvel universe kind of thing that I was creating. So when I finally came up with The Hound of Endtown, it was so different. It was gonna be like a 10-page story, and it turned into a book, and then it turned into a novel, and then it turned into The Hermit. That all of those stayed on their own. It wasn't until I wrote American Monsters and this that I was like, I'm gonna sprinkle some of that into The Hound of Endtown and Hello Defiant Universe, put that in there. So it was supposed to be on its own thing. This was supposed to be its own thing, and it didn't stay that way. They wanted to play together, so I'm like, go ahead and play together, guys.
Do you feel like your books are getting better with time?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
That's fast, man.
Yeah. I wrote I didn't write terribly. I'll say I was pretty good for a guy who had no formal education other than high school, and I was writing just because I liked it, and I wrote constantly. I had dudes back again in the Army who were like, "You're never gonna do anything with this," and it was like, I was in the Army and I didn't have a college education. I was like, yeah, who the hell cares? Nobody in the Army liked to read really a lot, so it was like, nobody's gonna care that I'm doing this. And then I got into academia, and that changes everything. Then you get an environment where people really want to read and stuff, and it really got me motivated to do this and keep up with it. So,
And, I want to talk about something that's a little bit off book, but I know that you teach a class in China. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's a brand new job. It's super awesome. This guy is not the same as a teacher when I'm teaching. I get really, really bubbly. Like, I'm like, hi guys, how are you? Like, it's so bizarre. I'm like a split human. And it was really weird because I'm so, like, I have to be really authentic to who I am. Like, my life has been like a weird struggle of like knowing who I am as a person and then presenting that to people. And like, this is who I am. I'm an honest guy. And then I've had to learn to rein honesty back because in social context sometimes you can't be honest all the time. You can't be like, that looks terrible. Your hair is awful.
Hey,
it's
chill.
not wrong. Like, you're not wrong. You're like, dude, your hair is terrible. Do something with it. But it's like social cues. It's like, dude, don't do that in front of like that. So I'm weirdly learning that at this age now for some stupid reason. But I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know, it's just changing.
Has interacting with those students in China done anything to change what you're writing, what you're currently working on now?
Oh.
Like, do you see any Asian influences?
It made me want to write more stuff with kids.
Oh,
I want to
really?
write kid story. I'm actually talking to someone right now in another state, another writer who reached out to me,
Wow.
and she wants to do a kid's book. And it's a great idea. We're going to take the things you see at night, right? And I'm going to do the art, scary and horrible. But we're going to shine the light when you turn on the light, what things look like with light on it. So it looks not terrifying. And and she's a photographer, so we're going to use real photos versus my art of the imagination. Reality versus what you see with this main character kid we're coming up with together. So we're actually probably going to write a kid's story soon. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Good job, yeah. Exciting.
Kids would love that.
Yeah, that's a whole audience. I'm not, reaching that. I was reached as a kid. That's a great time to reach them. I'm like, you gotta wait till you're grown up.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we get to all of these fan questions. Erica Estrada writes in, what is your favorite type of book to write?
I've only wrote horror and apocalyptic dystopian. So out of those two, if we include short stories, I will say no. Still, it's one of those two. Horror, because anything goes. Anything goes in horror. If I write science fiction, people want to go, why does that drive do that? Or like that planet's gravity would kill them. And I love that. I appreciate science. Not to hate those people. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't limit my imagination. Like, I want my planet to have like balloons. Like, I can do whatever I want. It's writing. But horror is really where you can do it and no one really questions it because it's kind of like, it's magic, it's demons, it's ghosts, like anything I want it to be, and you get to end it horribly each time and people are going to be like, why is everyone dead? I'm like, it's horror.
It's just what happens.
What did you think was going to happen? They're going to be best friends and go skipping down the memory lane? Right?
Could you ever see yourself writing a romance novel?
I am going to.
Get out of here!
I am going to write. I'm very excited about it. It's actually
the succubus
like
ghost?
3 books from now. I will write it. No, it's not. It's supernatural still, but it's magical realism. The main character is a girl. It is based on poems from Marie de France, and she wrote very Arthurian poems. And I loved all of them. So I was like, oh my god, I have to make this like a romantic like story. So it's gonna be set in San Antonio.
Nice.
She's a girl who falls in love with a Birdman, a man like the Lechusa story, but
Okay.
he's handsome and all that. Because there's an actual story from Marie de France. Her poem has a man she's in a tower and he visits her as a bird, and they get their nookie on and all that, and they have a romance. And so I like that story. And there's other stories, so I was like, I'm gonna bring all those poems, 3 poems specifically, into this and make a romance story because I already know I can do horror. I know I can do these other things, and I want to do romance. I'm pretty good at it. I wrote it for girlfriends before, and
really?
they loved it. Yeah, they were like, "Oh my god!" Because Shades of Grey came out, and I was like, "I can do better than that. Like, give me a shot, man. Give me a shot." And I was like, "Boom, boom, boom,"
and 2 kids later.
Say it.
All right, back on track. We got another fan question from Lucas Taylor. Where does the ideas for the characters come from in your stories?
Well, in this one, everyone, a lot of you. I think you're in one of the stories.
Wow.
I think I have you in one of the stories, actually. I think you're a name mentioned. I might be wrong, because I think you're in another story. Anyway, Miss Bailey, Lewis has got a whole story based on him and his wife. My friend Connor is like a reoccurring theme in Hello Defiant and this one and American Mom. You're in 3 books, guy. David Murray and my friend Amanda back there are also, they have their own stories. So a lot of my stories come from people. I like people. I like this. I like meeting people. I like talking to people. I can't stop talking. It's really bad. But like, it's because I like everybody's in me, man. So I get to have them all absorbed into me, and I like that. And it's like I'm the thing, and I'm sucking everyone into my slither, you know, driving people around like skin cars, and I like everyone. Like I like that. So it's people. Like I said, I pick up qualities of people, and then those people. I also pick up negative qualities. So if I'm like, you're a douche, I put you somewhere in there. Or like, I think Cameron from Hello Defiant, he's a rich kid, and I based him on a lot of the kids that I went to middle school with on the north side of town, all the kids from the Dominion.
Oh.
Based him on a lot of them. I was like, he's just one of those, they're jerks in the way that they don't care about you, you know, where they're like, they're mean and snide, but then they don't look at you. They're not the typical bullies like, I have to make my world torturing you. It's like indifferent bullying where I'm like, I hate you, look at your weird hair, you got a scar, and then they never talk to you again. You're like, ugh. Like, oh my god, they don't even have time to invest in bullying. Like, I suck so much. You know? So like, people, even jerks. I put jerks in my books too. That, you know, even if they don't deserve it, they're in there. So.
Well, good. I'm glad. Does anyone have any questions from the audience?
I got another question. I guess really just thinking, because I heard you saying that you may be doing a romance novel.
Yes.
And then you're doing horror and then kids stories. Do you feel like you may tread on some water, or you may not be as strong in writing one area? I mean, do you fear that?
Always. I know what I'm very not strong at, and I get a lot of people assume that because I can write everything. So people are like, can you write lyrics? Can you write me poetry? I've only recently dipped into poetry. I took a lot of courses on poetry, so I was like, I might as well start really getting into it. And it was a good way to flex like your muscles with language. So it was like, I looked at it that way now. So it's like, cool, I learned that. I was really uncomfortable with poetry. Lyrics, I wrote lyrics when I was in a band, so I like got more comfortable with that. The more you do it, it's just anything. The more you do it, you know, none of us knew how to use a toilet. We're all good at it now. None of us think twice about going. We're like, you do it. Or a car. A car is a really, you know, like a lot of us are about to pop into a giant machine that weighs way more than us and haul down the road and never think twice about it. So I look at it the same way. It's like, I probably am not good at it, but I wasn't good at this technically when I was 12, and I kept doing it till now, and I'm pretty good at it. So it's like practice, repetition, doing it, perseverance, believing in yourself, passion, you know. So
earlier you talked about imposter syndrome, and then right now you just talked about how good you are at this. So how long did it take you to get over the imposter?
I have a degree.
Okay.
An expensive university for several $1,000s said I can do this. In the army, I was like, I'm an army guy and I can write, and everyone's like, oh, okay, guy, you're good for you. And I'm like, no, really, I can write. And now I'm like, I have a degree, and they're like, he said he has a degree, he can write. So I'm like, yeah.
So do you feel like that really gave you the legitimacy?
No. It was like a personal legitimacy for me. It's personal, where I'm like, yes, because it's kind of like, what do you have, other than the work, what do you have to claim to back that you know what you're even doing, that you care enough about it? I'm like, well, I took years of college courses to show that I give a damn about it that much, you know, because I feel like if I didn't, I'm not saying about anyone else writing, but for me, I'd feel like an amateur, you know. I feel like there's always going to be that thing that they have on me. And ever since I was a kid in a class where you're a kid who struggles, you always look at that thing about you. And then I came to terms with, you know, I'm a brown dude, and there's like, I hate the idea that in college I had to write stories about being brown. And so that's like doing that. I don't want to do that. I want to write stories about me. Nobody made Hemingway be like, write a white story in Hemingway, tell them about how white you are. He's like, I'm going to write whatever I want, you know? And I want to do that. I don't want people to just say, you got to write this, you got to do this. I want to write whatever I want, whenever I feel like it. That's why I do children's stories. That's why I do horror, any genre, because it's like, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't write, or expect me just because I'm this, that I have to write this way, you know? I can do whatever I want. This, and it's also this is going to tell me whatever I do, and I'm just going to go with it. So.
Hey man, what's better than that? Okay, so this one's coming from Josh Lavario. What do your books help you navigate when it comes to your life?
Josh Lavario, by the way, is a great poet. He's going to be published soon in Cicada Songs, so I got some of his work will be published soon. He's a very good poet. What was the question? Sorry. I just like him. He's a really good guy.
Here we go. What do your books help you navigate when it comes to your life?
Oh yeah. People. Again. I observe people constantly and use them as a story, but honestly, I was very egotistical in that I didn't learn anything from it. So it was like I had this infinite well of information from people that I was absorbing because I'm just observant, but I wasn't learning it in using it in a practical way. So it was like I was a friend, but not an attentive friend. I was someone who could give you wise advice, but I didn't know when I should not give it and when I should. I was the guy. So it was like learning little things about people. My girlfriend Alyssa helped me out a lot with it, but writing in that way of like getting to this age, getting mature, getting to a new place in life, and just kind of like looking of like how people work. And I'm like, God, dude, you analyze people, you know why people do this, but why don't you ever use it in a practical way? And that's how it helps now, because I go like, be careful with this person because they have these qualities and it's a toxic personality, and you don't that. So I can analyze that, and I know instead of me trying to win over that kind of person in real life.
When you look in this crowd right now, where's the toxic personalities? Point them out. We have some takers in the back.
He's like, I got a vial of poison on that toxic.
Okay. Here we go. So this is going to be the last question that we got. It's from Mark Cardenas, and this is actually a pretty good one. You ready?
Yes.
All right. What are the top motivations to keep you writing when you feel unmotivated, uninspired, and overall writer's block?
I don't have writer's block. That's different. The other stuff I do go through. Writer's block I feel like is a dam of creativity. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what sentence you want to use. I really don't go through that. Mostly because if I do have that moment of like I don't know what to do, I will be a weirdo and pretend stuff out. Like I'll go into my garage and be like, "Hey, Connor has been drinking with me, and we've been practicing our acting, right?" So we go in there and I go, "Let's do a scene," and I go, "We're sad," so I go, "Listen, I don't know how she died," and I start like acting with him, and we start doing this thing drunkenly together, and that kind of is a cool way to get juices flowing, because you're like, if you're imagining it's going to be on TV or a movie one day, you're like, you can do it yourself, and then you kind of know where you want to go with it now. Because if you're watching the TV, I can watch movies and be like, I would do it this way. So if I do it my way, pretending, that kind of helps me get over writer's block. If that doesn't help, I just keep writing other stuff. You know, I'll be like, I want poetry now. That'll help me get things moving. But inspiration and biggestly, motivation.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's the hardest. Inspiration, people inspire me. Kind words are inspiring constantly. I feel like I say thank you all the time, and I never tire of it. I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, if you think I'm bored of that, never. If you think I'm going to be a jaded, huge guy who won't give you a time of day, never. That's not me. I'm super excited about it. But the motivation for writing, that's hard, even though I love it. And I'll even have the balls to say that I like it like more than a lot of people who say they want to write. Like, there's a lot of people who go, I want to write, and I'm like, I want a lot of things in this world, but like I put in the journal, this is a job. This is not. You don't go, I want to be an employee today. You go to work. You go to work. You don't say, I'd like to do work. You go to actual work each day and do it. Miss Bailey didn't go, I want to be a teacher. She was a teacher. She went and was a teacher. So if I say I'm a writer, I better sit there and write and say I'm a writer. So that's my motivation, is that, like, I don't want to be false. Like I said, I care about who I am. I care about the image of who I am. I don't want to be a false person saying, like, I'm a writer. And it's like, well, what have you wrote? And you're like, a story once a long time ago, like 5 years ago. I put it in a shelf. You'll never see it again. I'm like, no, a book. It's out next year. That's why, like, I've written, like, a book every year, because it's that, you look at that journal, and it says, it's a job. And I wake up, you know, it's a job for me. This is what, if I want it so bad, if I'm here telling you, dude, I want this so bad. I want I want an award from the president saying, dude, you're one of the biggest writers in history and all that. I'm like, I'll lose my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and I probably wouldn't even be satisfied then. Then I'd be like, let's go to Australia. What awards they got in Australia? Or it'd be like, what do they got in Hawaii? What do they got anywhere? What do they got in Papua New Guinea? Give me all the awards. I want it. It's probably unhealthy. People will tell you, you shouldn't want it that much. But it's like, you cannot. That's okay with
that's for you.
You cannot want it. I want it. You're not going to stop me, because I wouldn't stop you if you wanted it, so don't stop me from wanting it. And that's the only motivation that keeps me going. It's just, I'm not done, so.
Damn. Well, as for today, we might be done, but I just want to give everybody an opportunity to make sure, does anybody else have a question that they'd like to ask?
Huh? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Just hit finish.
Yeah, you can finish thinking, but